there, and we're going to jump in and get Genesis. No makeup today. Um, we'll just do the one for today, and we'll go from there. So, welcome in, friend. Good to have you this morning. All right, so we have had Joseph. We've been going through his whole life here in Genesis, and we now have his brothers coming to him. They've come back to him while he's in Egypt. I believe that we last left him. They had a meal with him. So, and oh yes, and they were seated in birth order, but Joseph hasn't done the big reveal yet. So, now Joseph gave these instructions to the steward of his house: fill the men's sack with as much food as they can carry, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack. Did that last time. Then put my cup, the silver one, in the mouth of the youngest one's sack, along with the silver for his grain. And Joseph did that. Uh, don't have time to explore it really here today, but as we've talked about a few times, Joseph is in some ways a foreshadowing of Jesus, and he takes the cup and he puts it in the sack. So we could spend some time looking at the connections there with the cup. Um, they're not straightforward entirely, so that's why I'm not going to do it this morning. But interesting, Jesus takes the cup, Joseph here passes the cup. As morning dawned, the men were sent on their way with their donkeys. They had not gone far from the city when Joseph said to the steward, go after those men at once, and when you catch up with them, say to them, why have you repaid good with evil? Isn't this the cup my master drinks from and also uses for divination? This is a wicked thing you have done. Okay, I'm just thinking here. Maybe I just don't understand having people that do what you command them to do, that are under your command, that they wouldn't question this behavior by Joseph. Hey, you told us to go put this in their bags. Now you're telling us to go after it, get it, and they just go, yeah, whatever you say, master, I'll just go do it. Yes, whatever you say, boss, I'll just go do it. Yeah, whatever you say, dad, yeah, I'll go do it. Whoever that person is, that you just do whatever they say, even when it seems ridiculous and counterproductive. Yeah, you told us to do this. Now you're telling us to go accuse it. I mean, they could see what's happening, but I'm just saying it seems odd. And I'm not suspecting that they would question or it would be in the story, but it makes me wonder about that. Yeah, I kind of wonder if the servants were in on it, that they knew who these people were. That's a good thing, or a good question, good thing to think about, is whether or not the servants knew or not. Because if we are connecting Joseph in some ways to Jesus, there are some references to the servants know what the master is about, that he refers to. So yeah, they may know, and he may have explained it to them, and now we're just getting the narrative of the instructions. It's time to do that. So yeah, maybe they do know. Maybe they're fully aware. If they're not, like I said, it would be kind of, I'd want to know their thoughts on that. We don't need to know it for the purposes here, but just the side things that my brain wants to dwell on at times that to me points to the fact this feels like a real story. I believe it's a real story. It's supposed to be a real story. It's not just somebody made it up. When I usually read made up stories, my mind doesn't wander into those things whatsoever. So, interesting. When he caught up with them, he repeated these words to them, but they said to him, "Oh, that's interesting. He didn't They don't actually say it here. Often in scripture they will repeat it, but why do they not repeat it here? Maybe it's cuz we already know, we've been made aware of, we know what's going on that side. So what's key is what they're going to respond. Why does my Lord say such things? Far be it from your servants to do anything like that. When even brought back to the land of Canaan the silver we found inside the mouths of our sacks, So why would we steal silver or gold from our master's house, your master's house? If any of your servants is found to have it, he will die, and the rest of us will become your or my Lord's servants. Oh my goodness. Okay, this reminds me again of how people speak before they know what's going on. They speak and they should not. Hey, thanks for coming in with the raid, ukulele. Oh, subs only copied the whole thing. I love when that happens. I do that too, which is funny. Hey, thanks for coming in with the raid. We are in Joseph's life, and we just got to the point where the silver cup is hidden in their bags, and the silver and the master servant, Joseph's servant, has gone out, and they've made the declaration: if whoever is found with that, they should die, and the rest of us will be servants. Bad thing to say. But before we find out what happens, let's go ahead and play the raid song week. Hey, thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. So we just had Joseph's brothers leave. Joseph told his servants, hey, fill their sacks as full as you can get them. Whatever their donkey can carry, carry it. And again, like last time, he said, put their money back in their sacks right at the top so it's easy to find. And take my cup, my silver cup, and put it in one of their sacks. And now, what we had, if you were with us when we were going through Judges, there were a couple of people that spoke and they made some declaration. Now, maybe you've done this before. You declare something completely ridiculous. I'll give a dumb one that I hope I'm never dumb enough to say. If that's true, I'll eat my hat. Or if that happens, I'll eat my hat. I'm sure you've heard people say that. I've heard politicians say something like that. And then I've actually seen people who went through with eating their hat. Now, that is a dumb thing to say. You don't ever want to do that. Why would you say something? Because you're trying to say here, they're trying to say, this is how serious we are to believe we're innocent. Now, they are innocent from the standpoint of they didn't do this. They're not innocent from the standpoint, the servant put it in there. And the servant knows where it is. And the servant's going to go find it. So they made this declaration of there's no reason we would do this. We went through all of this trouble before. So if someone's caught with it, that person who has it in their bag should die, and the rest of us will be your slaves. Yeah, how am I going to season my hat? Will you cook it or eat it raw? I've seen both when people have done it, and I think it's ridiculous. So I would season my hat. That would be the way. Maybe grind it up and no, I'm never going to eat my hat. It's not happening. Hats are nice. They're for wearing, not for eating. So, all right, so let's see what happens. That's where we left off right before you came in with the raid. So, very well then. I love this. Just nonchalant. Well, very well then. Let it be as you say. Whoever is found to have it will become my slave. The rest of you will be free from blame. So he switches it a little and says, hey, you can be, they'll be the slave, and the rest won't. So the rest of you can be free. Okay. Hey, let's see. Was that a follow? I could not read. Yeah, there it is. Yes. Hey, Joker, thanks for the follow. Thanks for the follow, friend. So the rest of you will be without blame, but that one will become my slave. Now, he said he will die and the rest will become slaves. Notice how the servant shifted it. Made it a little bit weaker than the promise. Why? Because he already knows what's coming. So each of them quickly lowered his sack to the ground and opened it. Then the steward proceeded to search, beginning with the oldest and ending with the youngest. Look at the setup here. Suspense. Now, if you were writing a TV drama, this is how you would do it. You would know it was in the youngest the whole time, and you'd start with the oldest and search all the way through. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. At this, they tore their clothes. Then they all loaded their donkeys and returned to the city. Okay, if you're not familiar with what this idea of tearing your clothes is, or sometimes it's tearing their clothes and putting on sackcloth, or putting on sackcloth and ashes. Those are all things that express the same thing. It's an outward expression of what your inward being is experiencing. So there can be several emotions used: sadness, sorrow, outrage. Those are all ones at which you might rip your clothing. Um, the sackcloth and ashes, again, is to make your outward appearance feel like your inward. The ripping of the clothes does that as well. That might be where you start. Sometimes you don't. But think about this. Yeah, if you ripped your clothes, it's probably no big deal, because you can just go get another set of clothes. If I rip my shirt today, no big deal. I've got more. If I rip my hat today, it'd be very sad. You would know I was irate or upset about something because he ripped his hat, but I have more. If you only have one or two sets of clothing and you rip your clothing, you're going to walk around half the time with either ripped clothing or mended clothing until you're able to replace it. Um, so it's going to demonstrate for quite some period of time that you chose to do this for some reason. It's going to be an ongoing witness to people about the distress that you had felt. So Joseph was still in the house when Judah and his brothers come in, and they threw themselves to the ground before him. Joseph said to them, "What is this you have done? Don't you know that a man like me can find things out by divination?" So Joseph is playing up the fact that he isn't their brother. He's trying to portray the knowledge and wisdom and understanding that he has. It's truly from God, but he's claiming it to be divination. What can we say to my Lord? Judah replied. What can we say? How can we prove our innocence? God has uncovered your servant's guilt. We are now my Lord's slaves, we ourselves and the one who was found with the cup. So Judah's saying, we made this promise. If this happened, we're all slaves. Now notice he didn't say that Benjamin should be killed, which is what they were claiming. But it doesn't go there. Just goes along with what the servant said. But Joseph said, "Far be it from me to do such a thing. Only the man found to have the cup will be my slave. The rest of you go back to your father in peace." Then Judah went to him and said, "Pardon your servant, my lord. Let me speak a word to my lord. Do not be angry with your servant, though you are equal to Pharaoh himself." My lord asked his servants, "Do you have a father or a brother?" And we answered, "We have an aged father, and there is a young son born to him in his old age. His brother is dead, and he is the only one of his mother's sons left, and his father loves him." So giving him a reminder of what information is about their family and what they had shared at the inquiry of Joseph. It's fashionable as Pineapple says, to wear pre-ripped clothing and torn jeans today. No one would be able to tell the difference today. Yeah. If we were tearing our jeans, yeah, that would be true. Interesting thought. We wear that for fashion, not for other reasons. Yeah. So our clothing might not portray that as well as older garments would. But if you ripped your shirt open and all the buttons came off and you wore it around with all the buttons ripped, well, you're right there too. Maybe people would think of it as fashion. I don't know. Anyway, back to where we are now. So yeah, Judah standing there with his ripped clothes, pleading and saying, "Remember, you asked for all this information. We didn't hide anything from you." Then he said to your servants, "Bring him down to me so I can see him for myself." And we said to my lord, "The boy cannot leave his father. If he leaves, his father will die. But you told your servants, unless the youngest brother comes down to you, you will not see my face again. When we went back to your servant, my father, we told him what my lord had said. Then our father said, 'Go back and buy a little more food.' But we said, We cannot go down only if our, so he's telling the whole story here. Only if our youngest brother is with us will we go. We cannot see the man's face unless our younger brother is with us. So giving him all of the details there. So, your servant, my father, said to us, you know that my wife bore me 2 sons. One of them went away from me, and I said, he has surely been torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. If you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you will bring my gray head down to the grave in misery. So look at the depths of which Judah is telling and recounting the story for Joseph, not knowing yet that it is Joseph. So now if the boy is not with us when we go back to your servant my father, and if my father, whose life is closely bound to the boy's life, see that the boy isn't there, he will die. Your servants will bring the gray head of our father down to the grave in sorrow. Your servants guaranteed the boy's safety to my father. I said, if I do not bring back to you, I will bear the blame before you, my father, all my life. Now please let your servant remain here as your Lord's slave in place of the boy, and let the boy return with his brothers. How can I go back to my father if the boy is not with me? No, do not let me see the misery that would come on my father. So look at the depths of which he's telling the story, recounting everything that's going on here. And why? Judah benefits nothing from this. Judah has changed. We're supposed to see this change in Judah. Judah was callous towards Tamar, callous towards his sons, and you saw how he treated them and acted towards them. Before that, when Joseph was going to be sold, he was callous towards Joseph, had no care, no regard for them. His father and his brother now are his primary concern. The life of his brother, the life of his father. That's his concern, not his own. He's willing to give up his own to rescue his brother from slavery and to prevent his father's death. That's his focus. So this is a massive change, a massive shift in the character of Judah, and we're supposed to notice this big change and shift as we go along. All right, a few things I saw in chat there. Still back to the tearing of the clothes thought, which I think is great. Let's think about that a little more. I have clothes with holes in non-fashionable spots. Yeah, I often ripped. Well, not often. I often had skinned knees and would rip pants there, but a few times ripped out the seam or the crotch. That's not a fashionable place. So yeah, you can have that happen, and you don't want it. Just some guy says, I worked with a girl that wore those. I couldn't understand that you would buy them like that. Yeah, when I was younger, they were fashionable. However, we made them ourselves. We tore our own jeans. We distressed them. We bleached them. We did all kinds of dumb things. Now I just pretty much put them on and wear them. And well, actually, I have my work jeans on, and right where my phone, the bottom of my phone would be in my pocket, there is a hole there because it's worn through, not just where my phone is, but something in my pocket, and you rub against things when you're working, and so it does that. So yeah, interesting thought there. Sometimes our holes are from continued usage and age, and sometimes intent and fashion. So, like hole in the armpit area, yeah, that's not fashionable, I don't think. No, probably not. Hang on a second here. Oh yeah, real worn jeans. I'm such a fashionista. Yes, that is. I don't know that that's ever truly been said of me. Okay, just text from my wife. I'm not home. She didn't sleep well last night. She is now, just an update. Those of you who know, her condition. She had surgery. She donated a kidney. She's recovering from that. Overall, doing well in the recovery, but no longer has any prescription meds, only Tylenol. Didn't sleep well, a little bit of pain. So, and I know some of you were praying for her earlier today. So thank you again for those prayers. I will see her later today, this evening. But we both do not sleep well when we're not in our own beds or when one of us isn't there. So she didn't sleep well last night. So. All right, but let's get back to our text. So Judah has declared that his life is the one that should be sacrificed, not his brother. Why? Because this would harm his father. And the only reason the boy came is because of that. And he made the promise to his father that he would take the punishment for things. And so he is giving Joseph more information than you need to. He's just laying it out. Why? Because he's going to do whatever he can to plead the case, to give him as much info, to see what this is going to do and have an impact. And he wants Joseph, who he doesn't know is his brother, to change his mind in all regards to what he has declared. So then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, "Have everyone leave my presence." So there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. So he wept so loudly the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. So notice this. Joseph sends away the servants so they won't see him cry, but he's weeping and wailing so uncontrollably they can hear him in the other room. They can hear him, and the whole household of Pharaoh is made aware of the fact that Joseph is weeping and wailing. I don't know if you've ever been in that circumstance where, yeah, well, maybe not you, but somebody is weeping and wailing. Oh my goodness, it's a little embarrassing because they're making a scene, and you can hear them in the other room. You can hear them down the block. Joseph's just making a spectacle here. Why? He can't hold it in any longer. Joseph said to his brothers, he finally fesses up, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" Now, Judah just told him he was. Judah just said that, hey, our father will die if I don't come and do this. So this isn't a question of inquiry, of not having the knowledge. It's a declaration of love and concern and wanting assurance. He can now not just ask as an official of Pharaoh. He can ask, my dad, is my dad still alive? His brothers were not able to answer him because they were terrified at his presence. So Joseph reveals himself. Now they're terrified. Why? Don't read ahead. Don't say I know the story. Why would they be terrified? Because they sold him into slavery. They've been knowing that there's been something going on all along, that God was calling their sin to account in this whole encounter with the famine stuff and coming down here. They knew God knew. They knew that God was going to punish. Now, oh no, we fessed up to this circumstance. Joseph has the power. He could throw us all in prison. He could have us all executed. They're not thinking, oh no, my brother is returned. My brother is alive. They're not yet there. They're in the, oh no, he has power. I did this to him. What's he going to do to me? And Joseph said to his brothers, "Come close to me." When they had done so, he said, "I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt." See, that's the first thing he reminds them of. "And now do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. For 2 years now there has been famine in the land, and for the next 5 there will be no plowing and reaping. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to save lives by a great deliverance." Great band of survivors. Okay. Sometimes they're just variants, or different ways to translate the same word. So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God. He sent me father, he made me father to Pharaoh, lord to his entire household, and ruler of all Egypt. Now hurry back to my father and say to him, this is what your son Joseph says, God has made me lord of all Egypt. Come down to me. Don't delay. You shall live in the region of Goshen and be near me, you, your children, and your grandchildren, your flocks and your herds, and all you have. I will provide for you there, because 5 years of famine are still to come. Otherwise, you and your household and all who belong to you will become destitute. You can see for yourselves, and so can my brother Benjamin, that it is really I who am speaking to you. Tell my father about all the honor accorded me in Egypt, and about everything you have seen, and bring my father down here quickly. Then he threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and wept, and Benjamin embraced him, weeping, and he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. Afterwards, his brothers talked with him. Okay, so Joseph lays this all out. He's been bottled up, and it's this big thing that we all turn to. You meant it for evil. God meant it for good. God sent me ahead of you to save a remnant. We've got all those themes and things within here, and that's all good. I want to caution you, though, don't over apply that thought, because every time someone does evil, doesn't always mean that then, well, God will turn it for good. Absolutely no. If we look at sometimes in Scripture, there's evil that's punished by evil that's punished by evil. We've read that before in Isaiah when we were going through there, that evil was going to come and evil was going to be punished by evil. It was going to be punished by evil, and then eventually it would turn to good. So we should not always make this assumption to declare that every time. I'm saying there's great comfort in declaring it. I'm saying there's great hope in declaring it, but I'm saying there's no demand that we should always demand that good has to come from everything that's evil. No, sometimes evil is just that. It's just horrible, and it's just evil, and we live in a fallen world, and we need to know and understand that piece of it too. Here, yes, absolutely, Joseph is now able to look back on it and say it. See, I think one of our problems is as soon as the evil thing or the bad thing happens, we want to declare this at the beginning, and it's only, I think, in reflection that we're able to truly articulate how God turned something bad into something good. So if that makes sense, I hope it does. For instance, I'll say this. I think God turned something bad in my life, my parents being divorced, into something good. I have great compassion for people who struggle with marriage. I have great compassion on people who come from broken families. I have great compassion for them. So God's turned that into something good that I'm able to use. Has it turned into good in my life? I don't know. I could maybe point to it's made me who I am, so that my wife and I will be celebrating 30 years of marriage, in a years plus from now, and we're able to have worked through lots of things because we didn't want to go down that road. So it's made me convicted, and that. So is that it? I don't know. So that's what I'm saying is I think sometimes we're too quick to declare that. But I wanted to point out, I still think it's a great thought. Just be cautious of when you throw that around and declare that this is how it's happening right now. Okay, so let's see. After his brother talked, it doesn't even say what his brother said. Oh, that's interesting. I thought it was going to tell us, but no. Now it's switching. When the news reached Pharaoh's palace as Joseph's brothers had come, Pharaoh and all his officials were pleased. Why are they pleased? These are the brothers of Joseph. Joseph's the man. If his brothers, his families, this is great. This is going to be an awesome family reunion. We are so excited for Joseph, and we're excited to meet the fam. Pharaoh said to him, tell your brothers, do this. Load your animals and return to the land of Canaan. So Pharaoh now tells Joseph, bring them on down. Bring your whole family on down to Egypt. Tell them to come on down. Hey, Archie Bible nerd, good to have you in here this morning, my friend. We're in the middle of Joseph, and Pharaoh is now just been informed of the brothers being there. Tell your brothers, do this. Load your animals, return to the land of Canaan, and bring your father and your families back to me. I will give you the best land of Egypt, and you can enjoy the fat of the land. So Pharaoh has now backed Joseph's play. Joseph is saying, hey, bring Dad on down. Bring him on down here. Get Dad. There's still going to be a famine for 5 more years. Bring him in here. Pharaoh is upping it by saying, I'm going to give you land. Now, Joseph was already saying you can be in the land of Goshen and be there and be by me. Pharaoh is backing that play. He's reinforcing that. You are also directed to tell them, do this. Take some carts from Egypt for your children and your wives and get your father and come. So this is the... I'm going to say this and then you can laugh. This is the first U-Haul. He's sending his first U-Haul trucks out to load up the family and all their belongings and bring them on the move. So these are rental carts that are going to the land of Canaan to load up the family and bring them down here for the move. So the first U-Haul mentioned perhaps in history of the rental cart or wagon to bring everything. Sorry, I'm laughing at my own joke there. Never mind about your belongings because the best of each... Oh, wow, he's even saying just get the fam. Don't even worry about loading up all your stuff. You got the best when you get back here. We'll just take care of everything you need. So don't worry about loading up everything. Just get here as soon as you can. So the sons of Israel did this. Joseph gave them carts as Pharaoh had commanded. He also gave them provisions for their journey. To each of them he gave new clothing. Why? They had torn their clothing. They needed new clothing. So they're not going away in the clothing that was torn to outwardly express the sorrow they were feeling. They now have brand new clothing. I don't know about you. I'm usually pretty darn excited when I get a new outfit and I want to show it off and I want to show people the new outfit that I have. I want people to compliment me on it. I want people to notice it. So they have brand new clothing. But to Benjamin he gave 300 shekels of silver and 5 sets of clothes. Okay, just giving us the weight there of the shekels. 5. I'm trying to remember where we had 5 showing up. That's interesting. 5 showed up here. 5 showed up in one of our other texts a week or so ago. And we're like, wow, that's interesting. 5 showed up twice in it. Wonder if there was anything about it here. 5 is happening again. Not sure. And 300 shekels of silver. Not sure if there's anything significant there. Sometimes numbers are meant to signify something. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're here and that's what it is. Oh my goodness. Yes, I'm sure it wasn't yes, clothing that said I tried to kill my brother and all I got was this lousy t-shirt. 5 portions of food for lunch. Say more, Archie Bible nerd. What are you thinking there? I know you've studied this section, so maybe there's something that you have insight to that I don't. So if there's something there, yeah, just let us know. Yeah, sorry about the Streamlabs. It's going to keep doing that. I need to update that and turn that off. But yeah, that was for Saturday if you weren't at Blessing Boat. So, and this is what he sent his father. Okay, so now we're going to get what he sends his father. 10 donkeys loaded with the best of Egypt, 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread and other provisions for his journey. Then he sent his brothers away, and as they were leaving, he said to them, don't quarrel on the way. I'll come back to that phrase in a second. Why does he need to send the donkeys loaded with things for his dad? It doesn't tell us what it says, the best of Egypt. Why is he sending him those things if he's wanting his dad to turn around and come back? He's going to send them the donkey. He's going to carry him. Then he's going to unload all the packages, and then he's going to come back. It's an honor thing. He is demonstrating honor towards his father, to convince him of the truth that he is welcomed to come, because the gifts are coming to him, and then the gifts come with him. So there's an honor thing going on there. Yeah, he gave him 5 times what he gave the others. I was just trying to see if there was a significance and why it was 5 times more. 5 times something, or 5 is not a common reoccurring theme in Scripture. So I was just wondering if you knew anything into the why it was 5 times, not that it was 5 times more. Okay, yep. So they went up out of Egypt and came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan. They told him, Joseph is still alive. In fact, he is the ruler of all Egypt. Jacob was stunned. He did not believe them. See? Told you he wasn't going to believe them. But when they told him everything Joseph had said to them, and when he saw the carts Joseph had sent to carry him back, the spirit of his father Jacob revived, and Israel said, I'm convinced my son Joseph is still alive. I will go and see him before I die. So, yes, the carts, the possessions, the gifts were all in honoring him and convincing his father it really was him, because there's no way that the 11 brothers could have went down to Egypt with their silver, returned with all their silver, returned with all these possessions, with all this transportation, unless it was Joseph. Who else would have done this? Egypt wouldn't do this. There's no way it's going to happen unless it is Joseph. So he figures that out. So Israel set out with all that was his, and when he reached Beersheba, he offered sacrifices to the God of his father Jacob. Okay, so let's go look at Beersheba. I'm trying to remember what it means. So Genesis 46. Somebody probably remembers, but sometimes I don't remember the significance. I know Beersheba is someplace that we have looked at. Well of the sevenfold oath. Yeah, I know we had been reading it. Yeah, look at all the references down there in Genesis of when it happened, or in Joshua or Judges. So, yeah, and even Samuel. So, we've come across Beersheba a few times already. So, it is significant as place of swearing by 7 lambs, or well of oath. Okay. Trying to remember the first occurrence. That's what I was trying to remember, but I don't. Okay, can't remember everything. So, but let's see. I can do this. So, it's just ongoing. It's not per stream. It's just a started count there. So, exclamation point, words plus, and it gives a running count every time I'm going over and looking up a word to find the meaning. So we're going to keep that running. It's not from the beginning of streaming, but it's from last week on. And we'll just see how often I do that. We'll just see how that number grows. Maybe I'll just do it monthly if I can figure out how to reset it. So. All right, so Israel set out. He's at Beersheba, and God spoke to Israel in a vision at night, and he said, Jacob, Jacob, here I am, he replied. Now, interesting, look at this. We've just read through Samuel, and when God calls Samuel, he doesn't know, and it tells us the word of the Lord was rare in those times. He goes to Eli several times. Eli finally says, oh, hey, Just say, "Here I am, Lord, your servant is listening." He hears it again. He says, "Here I am." So Jacob already knows this. We've already had Jacob, when he's going to see his brother Laban, he has the dream of the um, angels ascending and descending. That was Bethel. I remember that. So that was the house of God, the angels descending and descending. And when he's returning from from Laban, he wrestles with an angel. He wrestles with God, and he has a name change. And so now here again we have Jacob having a vision from God. So this is not an uncommon thing for him. "I am God, the God of your father," he said. "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again, and Joseph's own hand will close your eyes." So you're going to die in Joseph's presence. What a great promise that would be if you haven't seen your son, if you thought your son was dead, and you get a promise that says your son you thought was dead is going to see you alive. What a great promise there. Then Jacob left Beersheba, and Israel's sons took their father Jacob and their children and their wives in the cart that Pharaoh had sent to transport them. So Jacob and all his offspring went to Egypt, taking with them their livestock and the possessions they had acquired in Canaan. So even though Pharaoh said you didn't have to bring all your stuff, they're bringing their stuff. Jacob brought with him to Egypt his sons and grandsons and his daughters and granddaughters, all his offspring. The names of the sons of Israel, Jacob and his descendants who went to Egypt. All right, we're going to get a long list here. I know some of you go, "Oh, a long list of names." Names are fascinating. Names are fun to go look up. They look up the meaning of them to see and understand the name of God that appears in them. You see AH on the end of the name. There's a reference to God in there. You see EL on the end of a name. There is God's name in there. And we've already known some of these because as they were born, we went and looked them up. So I'm not going to take the time here today to look all of these up. But I may look up one or two if I'm just intrigued by the name and don't remember it, or I know something about it and want to let you know that. In fact, I'm looking ahead, and I think I will be looking one up that I see L at the end of the name. So, Reuben, the firstborn of Jacob, the sons of Reuben, Hanok, Palal, Hezron, and Carmi, the sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, Zohar, and Shaul, and the son of a Canaanite woman. Okay, so Jemuel, I want to look that up. We are in, oh yeah, we're still in 46. So 46:10. Let's look up Jemuel. Day of God. Wow. Isn't that a cool name? Day of God. So it's his oldest son. Okay. The sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The sons of Judah, interesting, Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zezrah. But and Onan had died in the land of Canaan. So it mentions the sons' names even though they are dead. And we already had that story of his sons dying, and now he has had more children. Perez, who, by the way, is of Tamar. But we're not, so we'd have to look and find some details on Zerah and where that comes from. Day of God sounds like Day of the Lord. Yeah, I would be interested to look into that more precisely. But yeah, that's an interesting connection there. I'm not sure if it's Day of the Lord in the same way or not. But yeah, Day of God, interesting connection there. It could be the counter to it. Instead of the day of the Lord, the day of God could be the blessed side versus the judgment side. But I don't know. I see, that's the fun of looking up names. They cause you to think of things and inquire of things. So the names have meaning that we miss by just reading names. In some ways, this is what I love about streamer names. Artsy Bible Nerd tells us something about you. It tells us an insight into who you are. Ukulele Worship tells us something about who you are. Flat Cap Dapper Pastor tells you something about me. The names in Scripture, they tell us something about the person that we don't get by just reading a name that we don't have a meaning. So by having actual sentences as names or phrases as names gives so much more insight into people, I think. And so I like all your streamer names. They're fantastic. They're fun. Whether they're and I was picking on some that say something in regards, but Alice in the Palace, that's a pretty cool name, or just some guy in Tennessee. Look at the way that's put together. A little bit of info, but not a declaration of I'm the guy from Tennessee. I'm the best, but a humbleness to it. So it tells us something, even in there. Or Alice in the Palace and yeah, I'm gonna get sidetracked. Let's keep reading names. All right, so where were we at? Okay, the sons of Perez. Why do we need to know him? Interesting. Here already, it's telling us who Perez's sons. Why? Because we're gonna get the line of David there. Hezron and Hamuel, the sons of Issachar. Tola, Puah, Jashub, and Shimron. Okay, so variant spellings is what it looks like. We got footnotes there. Okay. The sons of Zebulon, Sered, Elon, and Jaleel. Okay, I'm going to go look Elon up because, hey, that's a name maybe you've heard of. Elon Musk. What does Elon mean? So that's 14. So let's go down and look at Elon. And, and I'm not looking up because I do not know. Elon. Mighty. Terebinth mighty. So, interesting. Elon means mighty. Wonder if his parents knew that when they named him that. I'm sure Zebulon did, but I'm saying Elon Musk. These are the sons Leah bore to Jacob in Paddan Aram, besides his daughter Dinah. These sons and daughters of his were 30 in all. Oh, we're getting the summation of here's the total of how many were there. Yeah, that's funny, ukulele. Yeah, naming him Mighty Musk. Yeah, Elon Musk sounds a bit better than Mighty Musk, but it means Mighty Musk. Oh my goodness, I didn't think of that. That is, I'm not going to forget that now. I don't think anyone else will either here. The sons of Gad, Zephon, Haggai, Shuni, Esbon, Eri, Arodai, and Areli. Yeah, Areli. The sons of Asher, Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, and Beriah. Their sister was Sarah and Surah. Just making sure I pronounce some of these better. The sons of Beriah, Hebron, and Malkiel. Okay, so sometimes we get more people. Why? Because they're born at this time. So that's why we're getting more. And I'm just realizing I need to add to my word count. So, because I went and looked up something else. These were the sons born to Jacob by Zilpah, whom Laban had given to his daughter Leah, 16 in all. The sons of Jacob's wife Rachel, Joseph, and Benjamin. In Egypt, Manasseh and Ephraim were born to Joseph by Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. The sons of Benjamin, Bela, Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, Ehi, Rosh, Muppim, Huppim, and Ard. Wow, that isn't. I've got to go look up those names. I was going to go look up Rosh. I pretty much know what Rosh is, or it might be a different spelling. So this is what happens in English sometimes. But maybe you've heard of Rosh Hashanah. So I wanted to go look up that word. But Muppim and Huppim, I've got to go look up those names. Those are fascinating to me. So let's see, what verse are we in? 21. Okay. Rosh, Muppim, Huppim. Okay, so Rosh is head. So when you hear Rosh Hashanah, it's head of the year, the beginning of the year. Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. So it's the head of the year, the start of the year. It's new. So it's New Year. So head of the year. So Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh is his name. Ooh, Muppim is serpent. Ooh, that's fascinating. What's Huppim? Protected. Wow. Well, okay, so if you don't know this, ancient Middle Eastern, so Egypt has this, Mesopotamia has this, Babylon has this. Serpents are guardians of the temple, not in, they have serpents there, but in symbolic. So if you ever see Egyptians, they have the cobra on their headgear, and other places. It's a protector of sacred things. And also Mesopotamia has that. Their temple sacred, so they would be protectors of the king, protectors of the priest. They're used in icons that way. And Huppim means protected. So you have a protector and protected. That's an interesting thing. Don't know if there's more to it. I don't know those names. Don't know that they show up other places in Scripture, but just an interesting thing. I thought Muppim and Huffim were two TV shows, The Muppims and the H.R. Huppim stuff. I am not familiar with that, so perhaps they are, and perhaps they took that from here. If you're correct there, I don't know those. Um, yeah, interesting. This is a fun thing you can come across with names when you get to them. So, and we'll add to the word count. These were the sons of Rachel who were born to Jacob, 14 in all. So there's the culmination. Okay, I didn't know the reference H.R. Puffin stuff, so that's why I didn't get it. But the Muppets, I was thinking that myself when I heard Muppin, but I'm not familiar with H.R. Puffin stuff, so that would have helped me get your pun there. The sons of Dan, Hushim. The sons of Look at that, one. You have all these people with all these long lists. One. Don't even need to make a summary. He just had one. The sons of Naphtali, Jaziel, Guni, Jezer, and Silim. These are the sons born to Jacob by Bilhah, whom Laban had given to his daughter Rachel, 7 in all. So there's the 7 of them. All those who went to Egypt with Jacob, those who were his direct descendants, not counting his sons' wives, numbered 66 persons. With the two sons, the 9 children. Oh, interesting. So the 2 sons is translated the 9 children. Discrepancy there. Who had been born to Joseph in Egypt. The number of Jacob's family which went to Egypt were 70 in all. Good morning, Polygon Pastor. Good to have you in here, friend. We are going through Genesis here. So we're going through the list of names. That's where we're at, of the descendants of Jacob who go into the land of Egypt. Now Jacob sent Judah ahead of him to Joseph to get directions to Goshen. Why, why didn't they get directions when they went to Jacob? Why? They were just too excited. They just took off. They went there. Also, there could be the land hadn't been prepared. They didn't know exactly where they were going to get set up. Joseph needed time to make arrangements. So now arrangements have been made. Let's go find out. So Jacob is going to serve as the first GPS to get directions, or maybe he's Magellan. If we go back a little bit older there, and get directions, and we're going to find out where we need to go. And when they arrived in the land of Goshen, Joseph had his chariot made ready and went to Goshen to meet his father Israel. As soon as Joseph appeared before him, he threw his arms around his father and wept for a long time. Yeah, it just says him, but they're clarifying father. Israel said to Joseph, "Now I am ready to die, since I have seen for myself that you are still alive." If you've ever had this happen, I find this a blessing. That people are waiting for someone to arrive. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen here. He's not ready to die in the sense that he was going to die soon. He's just saying, I will be at peace. I have seen what I was longing to see before I died. And sometimes people are sick, they're in the hospital, they are on their deathbed, and they're waiting for someone to arrive. It can sometimes be to say a blessing with that person, sometimes to see their face for one last time, sometimes to hear the news of something new that they were anticipating or waiting upon, a new wedding, a new birth of a child. Those are significant markers that people are often waiting for. Here, there's the I was waiting to see you. Now I can die in peace knowing you're alive. Then Joseph said to his brothers and his father's household, I will go up and speak to Pharaoh, and I will say to him, my brothers and my father's household who were living in the land of Canaan have come to me. The men are shepherds, they tend livestock, and they have brought along their flocks and herds and everything they owned. Oh, interesting. Remember, Pharaoh said you didn't need to bring everything, but they've brought all of they own and the livestock. When Pharaoh calls you and asks, what is your occupation? You should answer, your servants have tended livestock from our boyhood on, just as our father did. Then you will be allowed to settle in the region of Goshen, for all shepherds are detestable to the Egyptians. So he's setting him up here. Why are you going to be here? What is the thing? So you are detestable because you're shepherds, but you're my fam, and this is where you are. So why are you going to be allowed to continue to be shepherds? Because you're my fam, and that's all you know. So that's, he's helping them to know and to see that and to address that to start with. So let's see where we at. Pharaoh said to Joseph, your father and your brothers have come to you, and the land of Egypt is before you. Settle your family and your brothers in the best part of the land. Let them live in Goshen. And if you know any among them with special ability, put them in charge of my own livestock. So, in other words, if any of them are really skilled, like we saw Jacob was really skilled and in charge of Laban, if there's one of them, in other words, he's saying, look, if any of your brothers are as good at shepherding animals as you are in charge of the whole land, yeah, I want them working for me. Don't let them work for themselves. Put them in charge of my stuff. We're going to grow my kingdom even further. Then Joseph brought his father Jacob in and presented him before Pharaoh. After Jacob blessed Pharaoh, Pharaoh asked him, how old are you? Greeted him. Oh, interesting. They translated it blessed. And Jacob said to Pharaoh, the years of my pilgrimage are 130. My years have been few and difficult, and do not equal the years of the pilgrimage of my fathers. Then Jacob blessed Pharaoh and went out of his presence. So Joseph settled his father and his brothers in Egypt and gave them property in the best part of the land, the district of Ramesses, as Pharaoh directed. Joseph also provided his father and his brothers and all his father's household with food according to the number of his children. Okay, so this is 47. I want to go look up verse 11. So, okay, let me see. The land of Goshen is the most fertile farmland in the world ever today. Wow, I didn't know it was the most fertile ever. I knew it was the most fertile in Egypt and in a lot of the surrounding area or countries, but I did not realize the world. That's fascinating. All right, so 11. I'm just looking up Ramesses here to see. Okay. Child of the sun is what Ramesses means. I wasn't trying to look up Ramesses. I wanted to actually see the Hebrew word, to see the spelling of it, to see if it was a more generic term, or if it was very specific. So that's all I wanted to see. So, yeah, even today, yeah, that's fascinating. That's really fascinating that's where God settled his people through Pharaoh, through Joseph. So, all right, Joseph and the fam. So we're back to now Joseph's story. So we've got this interlude with a connection with his fam, and they've come. Now we're getting back to just Joseph. So there was no food, however, in the whole region because the famine was severe. Both Egypt and Canaan wasted away because of the famine. Joseph collected all the money that was to be found in Egypt and Canaan in payment for the grain they were buying, and he brought it to Pharaoh's palace. When the money of the people of Egypt and Canaan was gone, all Egypt came to Joseph and said, "Give us food. Why should we die before your eyes? Our money is gone." So this is, oh, thanks, Archie Bible Nerd. You have a blessed day as well. So they've used all their money that they have. They have nothing to sell. They're farmers. There's no produce coming in. There's no grain coming in. They have nothing to sell. They don't have a way to get more money to buy more food. It's interesting. We just read through, I believe, Isaiah. Those of you who have no food, no money, come and buy food with nothing. And that was a reference looking to Jesus. So here we have Joseph providing grain, bread for life. Jesus is the bread of life. Connection there. So you can make all kinds of connections with Joseph and Jesus all along the way. Then bring your livestock, Joseph said. I will sell you food in exchange for your livestock, since your money is gone. Look at how shrewd he is. And I don't mean shrewd in a bad way. I mean in a way that he's taking care of people, but he's also a good, astute business person. So they brought the livestock to Joseph. Well, by the way, also, just let me say this. Their livestock would have died if they didn't have food to feed their livestock. They can't feed their livestock, so there is also a level of compassion in here, not exploitation. So don't read into he's exploiting them. No, he is helping them. He is blessing them. He is helping them stay alive. And he gave them food in exchange for their horses, their sheep, their goats, their cattle, and their donkeys. And he brought them through that year with food in exchange for all their livestock. When that year was over, they came to him the following year and said, "We cannot hide from our Lord the fact that since our money is gone and our livestock belongs to you, there is nothing left for our Lord except our bodies and our land. Why should we perish before your eyes, we and our land as well? Buy us and our land in exchange for food, and we with our land will be bound to Pharaoh. Give us seed so that we may live and not die, and that the land may not become desolate." Okay, so now the only thing we have left, we've got our land, which right now we can't grow anything on, and we have ourselves. We can sell one, but if we sold our land, we got no place to go. We could sell ourselves. Well, we wouldn't have the land, so we're going to sell it as a package deal of both the land and ourselves. Why? Because we want to live. We need food. This is the only thing we've got to be able to do it. Now, I'm not going to get into arguments about slavery, but here is a willing action to sell oneself into slavery to what? Have them provided for with food and not die. So Joseph bought all the land in Egypt for Pharaoh. The Egyptians, one and all, sold their fields because the famine was too severe for them. The land became Pharaoh's, and Joseph reduced the people to servitude from one end of Egypt to the other. However, he did buy the land of the priests because they received a regular They received a regular allotment from Pharaoh and had food enough from their allotment Pharaoh gave them. That is why they did not sell their land. So here's an exception. So at times when you hear people talking about the God of the Old Testament and them being severe and angry and bitter, in times they often go to these phrases of and kill all of the people. We've talked about this before, but here's another example of he bought all the land in Egypt. It says all there. Then shortly thereafter, there's a phrase that says, but he didn't buy any of the priest. However, he didn't buy the land of the priest. So then all didn't mean all. It usually tells us that shortly thereafter. If it didn't mean all, the all here is the vast spread. It was so widespread, it looks like it was all of them. However, the priests weren't included. And maybe it doesn't tell us, but maybe there were some other wealthier people who were able to get by and didn't sell themselves, didn't sell them their land. Why would we think that? Because later on, the Israelites are slaves, and it appears that the people in the land are no longer in servitude. How did they get out of servitude in 400 years, and how did it flip to the Israelites being in servitude? We don't have that here, but just an interesting thought. Joseph said to the people, now that I have bought you and your land today for Pharaoh, here is seed for you so you can plant the ground. But when the crop comes up, give a fifth of it to Pharaoh. Oh, that's probably where we saw the fifth before, was in the collection. That's what it was. I knew we'd seen it before. So maybe there's the connection to the 5 times the meal or the blessing, the clothing to Benjamin. He had 5 times more food when the meal was served. He has 5 times more here. There's something in this fifth. I'm not sure about it. I need to go look that up. I think I said that before. Haven't had time to. So the crop, you take a fifth of it. So 1/5. And the other 4/5 you may keep as seed for your field and as food for yourselves and your household and your children. You have saved our lives, they said, may we find favor in the eyes of our Lord. We will be in bondage to Pharaoh. So Joseph established it as a law concerning land in Egypt, still in force today. That a fifth of the produce belongs to Pharaoh. It was only the land of the priests that did not become Pharaoh's. Now, interesting. Here we have a fifth, but the biblical example that we think of and that comes about later is a 10th. Joseph required twice as much as we see the biblical 10th tithing principle. Fascinating. So this is for the government is a fifth. For God is a 10th. Something probably there, but I'm not going to go further down that road today. Now the Israelites settled in Egypt in the region of Goshen. They acquired property there and were fruitful and increased greatly in number. Jacob lived in Egypt 17 years, and the years of his life were 147. When the time drew near for Israel to die, he called his son Joseph and said to them, if I have found favor in your eyes, put your hand under my thigh and promise that you will show me kindness and faithfulness. Do not bury me in Egypt, but when I rest with my fathers, carry me out of Egypt and bury me where they are buried. I will do as you say, he said. Swear to me, he said. Then Joseph swore to him, and Israel worshipped as he leaned on the top of his staff. Okay. So the putting the hand under the thigh was how you swore oaths and promises. So he's saying, swear to me. So he's already has him place his hand there, and he is swearing to him he's going to do this. So when we get to Exodus, notice this, that they are going to take the bones of Jacob with them when they leave, which means they need to keep them, they need to store them, they need to preserve them for 400 years and then bring them out of the land. Yeah, you're reminded, just some guy, of when Jesus said, rend to Caesar what is Caesar, and to God what is God's. Even, or say, I've always thought the unspoken statement there is what isn't God's, it's all actually His. Ah, oh, yeah, there is a part of that, but also if you remember in that phrase when he's there, he also says, look at the coin whose face is on it, and he says Caesar. So then he's like, so it is give to Caesar what is Caesar's. There's also, we haven't got here in Samuel yet. It's going to be a while before we get there. But when Samuel warns the people of when they say we want a king, he says, here's what's going to happen. The king is going to tax you to death. Essentially, he's going to take the best of your stuff. He's going to take the best of your children to be his servants. He's going to take the best of your men to fight for him. He's going to take all of them. They're like, yes, we want all of that. So there are things that kings provide, and you provide for the kings to provide that for you. There's things that God provides, and you're to provide those for God. But you're right, there is a piece at which everything we have is from God's. Yeah, everything we have is from God. So, all right, yeah. This is what I love when we're jumping around in different sections of Scripture. Our mind starts to make connections in other passages. That's one of the reasons I like to do it this way and go from Genesis. And tomorrow we're in Samuel, and then the next day we'll be in Corinthians. So that's where we are.